Okay, so everyone, we are going to start our breakout sessions. In this room, in the main hall, we are going to be hearing from Lisa Hagen and Perian Stavrum on Fusion Customer Experience meets Lean Six Sigma, and we're going to make sure that everything comes up here. Hold on one second.
Well, thank you, Jen, and thank you to the technology gurus who got us going.
Yes, thank you.
My name is Perian Stavrum, as I was introduced, and we are so excited, and we thank you so much for having us to talk about what we think is a really neat innovation, which brings together Lean Six Sigma and customer experience. We represent an organization that is a business-to-business organization, so that's the context that we'll be talking about today. So Fusion, we think, is an industry-first innovation that takes the tools and methodologies of Lean Six Sigma and brings them together with the customer experience tools and methodologies. And I am actually a Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt, and I have taught hundreds of Green Belt students in Lean Six Sigma methods, and Lisa's one of them. So we complement each other in that respect. Additionally, Lisa is our program manager for customer experience at our company. And so the two of us partnered at the request of executive leadership to try and determine if we could blend these two methodologies together from a process improvement perspective. So what we found is that there are lots of great tools for improving business process, but the Lean Six Sigma methods don't always bring enough of the customer experience into focus during these problem-solving activities. And so we find that we're very data-centric, we're very fact-based, but we don't have the opportunity, even when we pull in voice of customer and critical to quality requirements, that we really understand the customer thoroughly. And so that's what this innovation really does. And one example of that is we were working with an associate in our business who was trying to determine when we should prepare for a system outage in order for them to do an update. So they have to take the system offline, put the update in, and then make it back available to the customers. And the entire conversation was around what would work best for us. And one of the folks that we worked with closely in our first Fusion pilot stopped the meeting and said, "What about our customer? What will this outage do for our customer?" And that's the premise of our discussion today. So, that story tells us what? That we think we're very customer-focused, and generally we are, but it's really hard sometimes to put ourselves in the customer's shoes when we are working within the business. And so it's important for us to recognize that although many of our associates are directly facing customers, there are that many more who are 2 to 3 times removed from that customer and don't consciously recognize the impact of what our business processes have on those customers. So we've blended these methodologies that allow us to uncover the institutional pain as well as the impact of our business processes on customers and their experiences with us. And that's what we're calling Fusion. We don't think Lean Six Sigma alone is enough to solve our business problems. So this is an example of a Lean Six Sigma project that was completed from the perspective of the business. And so from this example, we were able to certainly improve the process for the customer or for the business. But it also shows that we tend to be, again, extremely quantifiable and extremely fact-based from a Lean Six Sigma perspective, and the customer experience stuff is kind of squishy. It's not all that quantifiable, if you will. And so when we look, and Lisa's going to walk you through this example, but when we conceptualize how processes impact the customer, a lot of times we make assumptions about, how the process works and how the process might work for our customer. And as a result of those assumptions, we really have a lot of unintended changes that we make that indeed may work for us, but definitely don't work for our customers. So I think one of the greatest illustrations of this is that when Lisa and I talk about fusion, and even when we talk about fusion in our own business, one of the most difficult things for our associates, especially those trained in Lean Six Sigma, for them to conceptualize is, well, what's different? You've already taught me Lean Six Sigma. What's different? And the difference is that sort of squishy stuff that brings our customer into the fold and puts them at a virtual seat at the table when we're solving these problems. Lisa?
So when I was called in to help with this project, this was pre-fusion, and I'm the customer experience program manager, so I live in the world of squishy. I like squishy. That's who I am. I'm very emotional, and empathy is a very good driver for me. So Perian and I work very well together. And what happened with this particular project was we were trying to improve the onboarding for our customers. And I think of some of the talks that have already been given on anthropology and ethnographic research and all of those things. And we were making assumptions from our point of view, thinking that we were in the customer's point of view or thinking from the customer's point of view, and we were missing on expectations. And that's one of the key things that Perian and I struggle with fusion. We think this is wonderful, and as all of you here can agree and know in the world of customer experience, it's not easy to put yourself in the customer's shoes. You can't make those assumptions. So in this particular process, they did a Lean Six Sigma project, and if you can read the screen up there, they thought they did a really good job improving the process. We reduced the touch points for our customers on onboarding from 32 touch points to 20. We reduced the number of artifacts we were sending them in the onboarding process from 103 to 68. Yay for us, we did a great job. So we were looking to reuse this process for a new software product, and they brought me in as a subject matter expert for customer experience just to make sure that everything was okay. And they thought that my role was going to be very, very short and very, very minimal. And I said, whoa, wait a minute, guys. How do we know this improved it for the customer? Well, look, we reduced it by 44%. Of course that's better. And when we actually mapped it out, I know that map is small, but in the middle, there's effort and emotion that we tracked in there. It was still very high effort for our customers and a high negative experience for them. So we missed by assuming. And so what Fusion does is take all of the great stuff in Lean Six Sigma and combines it with the emotional stuff in customer experience to give it a holistic discipline that people can use to solve problems so we don't have another miss. And by the way, we changed this process moving forward. So Perian, let's talk about how we kind of stimulate that thinking from external to internal, or internal to external.
Okay, great. So this is a bit tactical now because we've moved from some of the foundational ideas into what did we actually do here. So Lean Six Sigma is primarily focused on the business. It tends to be internally centric around the process. However, you can't fix what you don't understand. And so Lisa and I consciously determined how do we fuse these ideas together, and we decided that the best place to start is with the business process, using traditional tools that Lean Six Sigma promotes, such as a charter which identifies the problem and gives us scope to the project. It also identifies who within the value stream we want on our team. So those pieces are important. We also create a process map which tells us exactly how this process works. And by the way, informs everybody. It's amazing how many of us don't really understand how a process works holistically. And so we start there because that's where we're most comfortable. We live there every day. And that gives us a really solid basis to get everybody on the same page really early. And it is fact-based, and it's very centric on the business. And by the way, that's really important because we have to be able to solve the process for the business. And it's important that we understand how it works today. So Lisa, I'm going to let you talk about the CX side.
Well, and then what we do in Fusion is we take them from the back of the house and understanding how our process works to the front of the house, which is the customer experience. And we really interject those emotional elements. And we actually put some data around those emotions. We ask them to conceptualize the customer, and we actually have them go through exercises where they score customer effort and emotion at various points in the process that we feel are important to the customers. And the challenge of Fusion, and the challenge I think we probably all have, is everybody thinks we do this already. I know the customer. I get it. And understanding customer experience isn't the problem. We interact every day as customers, and we know what it feels like to be a customer. But when we walk through the door at work, we almost unknowingly become, I'm going to use this term, I love this term, agents of the business, where we now expect our customers to have rational thinking and make logical decisions. And we all know that as people, as human beings, we aren't rational people necessarily. We're intuitive and we're emotional. And it used to be, you can't use the word feel. Lisa, please stop saying I feel. I feel like, no, we can't say feelings in the business. That's really changed because there's humans behind every single business, even in a B2B environment like we're in. There's humans behind that, and we have to put that emotional element back in. And when we go through this process with the team, they really have an aha understanding of how big of a gap it is in the purple box, the assumptions we were making as the business versus our customers' reality in their day-to-day. And what Fusion does is help us to identify those gaps so we can close them up. And we do that by using tools from both Lean Six Sigma as well as tools from customer experience.
Yeah, and I think I got a little bit ahead of myself here in my last slide, so not to repeat. But the point is that we start out from the back of the house. And what Lisa and I have done is created a 2 to 3 day workshop approach to delivering this methodology and actually implementing it as a problem-solving approach in the business. And so we start out by really, again, focusing on the back of the house first, as you see, using some traditional Lean Six Sigma tools. And that helps us, again, get comfortable with where we are today, get everybody on the same page, and again, we are most comfortable starting with the back of the house. It's less squishy, we get everybody in a sort of on the understanding what the current state looks like, and from there then we can interject the next phase of it to go to the front of the house.
And when we go to the front of the house, as you can see in the green on the screen up there, we really focus in on understanding the customer in their own world. So what is their job to be done? And not just their functional job to be done, how do they feel about that? And what's the bigger picture for them as they're doing that job? And what does that do to their customer's customer that we don't sometimes really consider? And as Perian said, in our business as a B2B, we have some people who never talk to a customer, who aren't customer facing at all. So humanizing that customer, and I love that we've heard that word several times today, humanizing the customer becomes so important by creating personas. We put a name to our customer, we put a face to our customer, and they're basically sitting beside us, and now they're a team member as we try and solve this problem. Because it's very easy. I had one group of software coders who said, I don't need this. I don't know why you're talking to me about customer experience, because I don't talk to customers. And I said, well, hang on a minute. The software that you're coding right now actually programs how somebody gets a mortgage. So picture yourself in a stressful situation trying to purchase your first home, or you're buying a house and selling a house, trying to buy another one. And what is that experience as you're sitting across from your lender? What you're coding right now directly affects that customer. Customer experience for you is really important. So humanizing the customer, putting that picture in their head, and then understanding through journey mapping, empathy mapping, what that looks like for our customer in their day-to-day uncovers a term that we're calling the process behind the process.
Yeah, and as a master black belt, that was the aha moment, being a Lean Six Sigma SME, subject matter expert. I would never get to the process behind the process. I might get critical to quality requirements, but I would never get a face to that. I would never humanize that customer. So the process behind the process, and we've talked about this kind of tactically. There are a couple things going on. First, we do the back of the house first. We bring the front of the house. We flip the agenda, right? We completely stop talking about the back of the house in our workshops, and we start talking about the front of the house. And then once we've agreed on all of those foundational elements, then we bring it back together. And in our tool set, we have added a tail to the fishbone that talks about the impact of the process to the customer from a root cause perspective. We have changed solution selection matrices and failure mode effect analysis templates and control plans, which are all traditional Lean Six Sigma kinds of artifacts, to add that effort and emotion score in each and every validation once we've set the foundation between and the connections between the front of the house and the back of the house. But that process behind the process is fundamental, and it's a fundamental change in our thinking, and it brings people closer to the actual problem. It's really fun to see how the group mentality and energy changes in these workshops. When we finish the journey mapping and the moments of truth and the real impact that our business has on a perceived customer's day-to-day activities, it's interesting how fast a group will collect themselves to create solutions that not only solve the problem for the business, but also solve the problem for the customer and make the customer's experience better. And it was funny because we didn't anticipate this shift occurring, and it's happened every time we've done it.
Because it gives that holistic solution proposal as we get into those things that Perian just mentioned, like root cause analysis and all of those things. It really helps people get on the same page and improve the process. As you can see, the map from before fusion to the map after fusion for anyone who's a Lean Six Sigma person, there's lots of steps. And our poor person, this is an actual project that we did, who was just overwhelmed by, what was this process, Perian, from 1987?
Yeah, 1987.
Alive and well today and ready to be replicated for the next one, right? Wait a minute, guys. What are we doing to our customers? And let's try and figure this out.
Yeah, and it is putting that customer in the virtual seat at the table, because they become, if you will, part of the team, part of the project team that was called in to solve for this. And that, again, helps us get not only that process map to look much better, but now we're evaluating the effort and emotion associated with that from the customer's perspective. And that's the holistic design that we've created to improve process improvement.
And if you look at just one more project, it really does deliver value to everyone. I like the quote that someone used earlier about, and Lou, this might have been you, about the business should be in business for value and the profits are just the after effect. This delivers value to all. So this project was, boy, you sure do make it hard for us to pay you. They got their invoice, they can't read it. It's not, this is from our customer, human readable, to getting a bunch of people in the room. We're a very large company with a lot of different silos, and there was a lot of moving parts and pieces, to, wow, I can actually understand what you're telling me on my invoice so I can pay my bill, which means we have a lot less calls coming into the call center, and everyone now is on the same page with the effort that the customer has to put in to pay their bill and the emotion that goes along with this, because I don't need one more thing to do in my day. I just want to pay my bill and move on. So it really provides all of that value to everyone, which is why we're excited to talk today about fusion. I kind of think of Perian and I on opposite sides of the fence. She's the Lean Six Sigma and I'm the customer experience, but we're the perfect partnership. So I would encourage all of you, if you have a CX side of the house and you have a operational excellence or compliance side of the house or a process improvement side of the house, bring them together, because together they really can do really great things.
Yeah, and just one more metric, if you don't mind. Lisa and I brought $500,000 into the business on one project as a result of looking at that system and looking at it from the customer's perspective. The situation prior to that was, it was one of those processes where people are a little bit afraid to dig into, and we had the opportunity to do that. And so fusion is real. Fusion makes a difference. And again, thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.